Hello, and welcome back to Dev Game Club, a weekly podcast in which two veteran game developers look at games from the past to discuss their relevance and impact today. I'm Brett Duville, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, a man who really doesn't want to take a trip to Blighttown.
Tim Longo. I mean, not only do I not want to take a trip there, I'm not even sure I know where it is. So, or what is there when I get there, other than probably some skeletons, I'm guessing. But even that, I'm not positive on. So,
yeah, it is. It's a lot. So I've played a lot more of this game. Tim has been having a little bit of, health issues, has had to back off from the screens a little bit on the time that he normally would get to play. So you haven't played tons more, maybe another 3 hours or so.
Yeah, maybe.
And I played another, it looks like about 24 hours.
Jesus.
And I am level 63, which I think is, if the level cap's up around 100 somewhere, I'm starting to get to that point of being a little worried about at the point at which I have to just get good, as it were, and just bang my head against things. And, it's funny because maybe we'll start with like the farming and grinding topic, because obviously I do a fair amount of that.
Yeah.
Because I will just go and be like, well, I guess I'll just go spend a couple hours just leveling. And that's a very different, I mean, sometimes I'll take, you'll kill something, you'll get a ton of souls for it, 32,000 souls, that's like 2 levels, or whatever. But there are times where I'm just like, I'll just go. So there's this place in Darkroot Garden, Darkroot,
Blackroot,
whatever.
Isn't it Blackroot? No, maybe
it's definitely not Blackroot.
Darkroot.
I think it's Darkroot. Where there's a gate that's locked.
Yeah, I found it
last
night.
Yeah. I unlocked that. That was what I was talking about last week. I unlocked that ages ago.
Yeah.
But through there are some challenging enemies that drop 2,000 souls. And I now have a really tight, like under 2.5 minute loop where I go and I pick up a few types of moss from 3 of the, tree-like things, whatever those are. And then I go and kill one of the NPC looking dudes beyond that gate. And that nets me 2,300 souls, and probably some purple moss, which is another thing I want, because down at the bottom of Blighttown, awful lot of poison. So I'm dealing with all that, and that's just my loop. And so, like, I can loop through that 10 times, so 25 minutes, and gain a level. That's like, I'll just do that for several rounds, 4 or 5 rounds, and I'll just sit there and grind. And it's still interesting because the variety of that one encounter with the NPC looking thing, it's different. There's some patterns it falls into, but it doesn't always fall into the same pattern. So I'm always still having to think, like, even the 3 tree things, which are not really a threat anymore. And even this guy, he's not really a super threat anymore. Like, I did it probably 20 times today, and I think he killed me once. And that was just because I was getting impatient. Like, it's just like I stopped playing carefully. I was just like, oh, come on. And I tried to bull my way through him, which is never a good idea. So what I found is I go and I fight that guy, and he'll generally fire off. He's a sorcerer. He'll fire off one of his blasts. I'll get behind a tree, and then I'll kind of gain distance on him. Now, he might just start charging at me with his melee weapon, which is bad for him, because that's my, I can kill him in a couple of hits, like parry, and then I hit him with a heavy and then a light attack, and he's down. And he never even touches me. So I love it when he does that. But often he'll go and he'll like come closer. He'll try to find another angle on me to shoot me with his magic, and I'll keep getting behind trees, and I'll try to get closer to him and try to hit him to provoke him to melee attack me. Sometimes he'll keep backing away. I mean, it's like every time is different.
Yeah.
And that is pretty remarkable. I mean, this is one dude, that I play again and again and again. Mm-hmm. And I don't have one strategy for him. I have like 5 strategies for him, depending on what he does. And it changes up constantly. And I'll often see like, oh, he got stuck on some trees. How am I going to deal with him? Sometimes he falls like it's not like all brilliant. It's more like, how am I going to deal with the emerging situation that I have here that has happened? Like, here we are. What are we going to do now? So it's wild.
I mean, you said the word remarkable, and I agree. I mean, I have that on a much, much smaller scale with this last session, because I kind of did my first, what I would consider farming runs, just in the Undead Parish section, because I had finished the bell, and I killed the gargoyles, which I should update you on that, and was trying to finish the Tight Knight demon guy.
Yeah.
By the blacksmith. And so I was actually farming for souls to buy arrows, because the strategy I was using against him was bow related. I got pretty close just by doing melee and doing good evades and also not so good evades and stuff. But with my blade, I just felt wrong, like I was using the wrong tool to get this guy, because it's like he's made of stone, and I feel like I need something that would do a different kind of damage than like a knife that I'm using. I can't really backstab him, which is my go-to strategy for everybody basically so far.
He's got that tail in the way. It's very hard to get to.
Yeah, I don't even know where his back is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And so anyway, I resorted to kind of a little bit cheesing him by doing ranged, because there's a spot you can get to that, he just keeps shooting his electricity bolts, and they hit a piece of geometry, and I just stood behind it and ducked out and shot. But anyway, that means I have to farm for arrows, because if I don't kill him, then I lost all those arrows, etc. So anyway, yeah. So but yeah, I mean, back to your point, it's like even those guys in red cloaks, capes, sometimes surprise me, and they're not too complicated, but the guys with the shields and the bigger shields and the swords, like those guys can stun you, and if you're not really paying attention, and when you're doing them multiple times, kind of trying to rush a little bit, even though I can backstab them in one hit and kill them, there's still those surprising moments where you're like, you really, like you said, you just can't not pay attention. You really can't phone it in. So I had a question for you with your farming and leveling, like I feel like I've definitely noticed a difference as I level, especially going back to some of the older areas that I've been through. But how, like when you get that moment, that sense that you want to level and grind, what is the trigger for that? And when you're done doing it, how much of a difference do you notice?
The trigger is almost always bosses. So what triggered this current round of doing it was I was trying to defeat Quelaag, this just grotesque spider thing that's at the bottom of Blighttown. Just totally gross. Absolutely disgusting. It is not a majestic spider creature. It is, it's give me Lolth any day. But
it's no Drider.
It is just, it's so gross. I mean, it spits fire and like, and I don't think there's actually a specific trick to it. Honestly, I think I just have to get better at evading and reading what it's about to do, and like evading its fire breath and stuff like that. But I get to the point where I'm just like bashing my head up against it. And so there were two things. One is I was having difficulty with that boss, but the second thing is the whole area down there is filled with poison. And there are places you can stand that are safe and all that stuff and let your poison come down. But once you get poisoned, it's like, well, now I've got to use this moss that I have. I went down there with over 40, and when I left, I had 4. Was, from how many times I tried to, I would go back to her lair and fight all these bugs and things that are down there, some of which also spit poison. So it just was like, I just was like, okay, I'm just banging into this
Mm-hmm.
And what was really satisfying, honestly, was when I was like, I don't remember how to get out. I definitely had a moment of like, oh no, like, am I just down here? And like, and there's not enough creatures around to like get a lot of souls and like level in place. So I'm like, ugh. And then I just totally went all the way back out. I mean, I'm just like, I sort of vaguely remembered. I mean, I only come down here once.
It was like it wasn't like you had to escape.
It was like that, and it felt really good executing it. I don't think I died even once. No, I didn't. I didn't die once, even getting out of there. I went past, I think, well, definitely one bonfire, maybe two bonfires getting out of there.
Wow!
But I climbed all the way back up to the depths and back up into Undead Berg, lower Undead Berg. And the whole time I was going back up through Blighttown, it's really something to see. I hope you do get to a point where you get that far, because it really strains the PS3 to its limits, because it is, there are times in there where I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is maybe 2 or 4 frames per second. There are definitely times where I'm like, I mean, not while you're moving. That's more like you get into combat and you do something and there's some particle effects. So it's on top of the world that is really pushing it. You're also, and it has some just kind of, when you parry, there's a little moment of, deliberate stutter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
yeah. I mean, I'm playing on PC and I'm playing the remastered version, which I think I forgot to mention. So I don't know how different that is.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what your experience will be down there as far as that goes, but separate from that, it is just walking into there. There's just a moment of going like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And being able to come all the way back up through that safely, killing everything along the way. There are a couple things I cheesed a little bit. I just like, they're not really set up to come at them from behind. And so sometimes they'll chase you, they'll path in the wrong direction. You can make them basically walk off a ledge or something like that. But mostly not, mostly I was killing everything on the way back. And that was just, it was so satisfying to climb up the ladders out of Blighttown and be like, I can't believe I just did that. Like, it was amazing.
And I
felt like a triumph.
I bet in the grand scheme of video game levels, it's probably not even that long. I bet, right? I mean,
it's not. And now that I know now that I've made the kind of golden path back, it doesn't feel long at all. Yeah. And in fact, when I came out, I was like, was it really only that?
Yeah.
But getting down through it and finding my way through it the first time was like, it was multiple runs, and it was epic. Just like, oh my God, this place.
And I mean that. I mean that in a good sense, right? That it's like that's such a. And I even again, I'm so far behind you, but Undead Parish is, we both talked about sort of how rough that section was originally, and now I'm farming it. And it's just like taken on this fairly small section has taken on this whole new meaning. And that's a very special thing that a game can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And this game does it again and again, and how things are connected is often very surprising. There are shortcuts all over the place, and it makes me think like, how can this all be this connected? Like,
the world design is amazing. Yeah. I got a little bit further into Darkroot Garden and realized, I look above and I see the causeway that's in Parish, and you're like, is that what that? And of course, it's all smoke and mirrors when it comes to skyboxes and stuff. Like you can tell that it's not the actual geometry, it's not a true open world, but the sense of it is like the world design from a flow perspective is very, very difficult to do for level design.
Yeah, it's fairly miraculous in that way. I mean, I think so it is all smoke and mirrors like Gesundheit. I don't think you could have the version, like unlike I think Half-Life, for example, to throw back to a game we played a few years ago now. I don't think it literally is all connected in that way.
No,
I think there are places you pass through where you're like, okay, I just went up a couple floors, but I'm like that's only maybe 50 feet, but clearly it was like 600 feet above me or something when I was down on the ground.
Right. It's not fully to scale. It's not a, well, right. I mean, I'm wondering if that's sort of why everyone's flipping out about Elden Ring, is that because it's open world, it kind of has to be more real.
More that.
When the interconnectedness has to be actually real versus fake.
Yeah. Yeah. But it feels, epically real, I guess. It feels,
it's convincing.
It does. It's extremely convincing. And I only kind of think about it when I'm like, it's scale wise, it doesn't make any sense that's that's a lot further away than the actual distance I travel. So, so I can see that it's not, but it's only because I think about it. It's not because I experience it that way in any way. To me, I'm like, oh yeah, this is all connected, like I just said. So yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
So when you so to the second part of my question on sort of like what the difference is once you do some leveling, like how noticeable.
Honestly, not that much. I think actually what happens is that's when the learning happens. So like learning,
knowledge is the real achievement.
Yep, knowledge is the real achievement. No, I mean the way our brains learn, right, is that they have to kind of cement things and move them from one place to another place in our brain. So I think what happens...
It's a programmer describing a hard drive. That's what you just did. You're like, what the brain does is you
defrag the short-term memory and move it into the long-term memory.
You're caching in some memory over here to put it in this... Oh, boy. Yeah. Tell me about stacks next.
Well, so my thinking is that basically what happens is I go away from the thing. It's like going and taking a shower when you're stuck on a problem or whatever. It's like, it's just the fact that I went away for a while.
Yeah.
Like I was having trouble with the gaping dragon, not a ton, but I was like, man, it's like I'm losing a lot every time I fight this thing. I finally found the best route to get to him. I'd done a ton of farming there because I wanted to up my weapons as much as I could. And that's in the depths, which you also haven't been to.
That's where you get the ember stuff?
No, that's past the moonlit midnight butterfly, moonlit butterfly, whatever it's called.
There's no way I'm gonna this game.
So I went, I farmed a thing a bunch just to do the weapon stuff, and then I went back, and it wasn't the first time, it was maybe the second time though I fought this dragon after I had just gone away for a while, and I was like, I just was more patient. I wasn't terrified, right? Because the first couple times you're like, oh my God, because it's overwhelming and you haven't seen everything it can do yet. And that's probably what's going to end up being the case with the spider is just, I'm going to have gone away, and I probably, if I had just gone away and just, I don't know, done nothing for 10 hours, I probably also could have gotten just better at her just because my like I said, my hard disk defragged. So I don't feel like the things I do to my stats make a huge difference.
But it gives you the time away and the confidence to do it.
Yeah.
Well, it's like it's almost like the way we talk about puzzles and puzzle like adventure games where you're stuck on like a Monkey Island puzzle or something. And you're like, I don't know what to do here. Like, I don't get the clues. And then, we talked about this probably in our King's Quest or our Space Quest or whatever series. And it's like, and then you take a couple days off and you're like, oh, right, that's what it is. And you go and solve it immediately,
Yep.
But it's staring you in the face. And and the psychological, it's almost like the 12 steps or something of a Dark Souls boss. It's like there's the first encounter, and then there's the second encounter, and then you're like, there's like the fear phase, which is like 3 tries, and then there's the kind of investigation phase, which is like 3 more tries, and then or whatever, and then the last phase is like, okay, I think I got this. I just have to like concentrate and pay attention, and I can do this.
And execute.
Unless you have a knight that you've called in to help you, right? Like I did.
Yeah, that certainly helps. And there might be one for that I haven't figured out because I haven't explored, because of the poison. I haven't explored a lot down actually around her. There might be places I haven't seen down there. Totally nasty.
Do all bosses have that? I thought that one for the gargoyle was more of an introduction that you could call players in to help you.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I literally don't know. I haven't found any others. There wasn't one for not one that I found for the gaping dragon.
It was the sun guy.
I love the design of the. It was the guy who's staring off into.
Yeah, it was that guy. It wasn't the guy that you unlock. I don't know what that guy does, but it was the guy.
Oh, okay.
It was the guy staring off yonder, and yeah, and man, that was definitely did the trick. That guy.
Yeah, it made a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made a huge difference when I play. I was like, oh man, this is totally different. Like
I turned around and the first guy was dead. The first gargoyle. I was like, I was just trying to stay alive, and it's like, oh, he's okay, all right. I mean, I did some damage too, but anyway, yeah. But it was cool. I was wondering if that was their way of introducing, like, hey, it's fun to play these bosses with somebody else. You should call somebody in.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I want to do that.
I can't even do it myself.
You can't. Yeah, you can't. I guess there were basically hack problems and bricking people's saves and stuff like that had to do with that, and that's why they had to turn it off. Is that basically people were hacking it?
Yikes!
I don't know how, but that's what I understand. Yeah, it's
internet.
This is why we can't have nice things,
Yeah.
I tell you. Yeah. It was a whole thing.
Huh.
Yeah, but that's how I level. I go to this place. In fact, now that I'm there, I'm like, well, maybe I'll just push further into this forest. When I originally had gone there, I was like, well, I don't want to go any further in because I'm getting so many souls from these guys. But now, like 2,000 is, I mean, it's a lot, but it's also not a lot. It's 1/10 of a level, maybe. And I'm at like 23K now for a level. So it's
wow.
like. Kill a few of these guys, and it's like, well, if I lose 8K, it doesn't feel horrible, and so it's that too of like, okay, well now I've gone to this other area, maybe I'll push forward. That's kind of what's been happening for me is like I progressively deepen, I kind of like go to different places and I get deeper and deeper into them, but just kind of like spreading it around. I end up going back to undead Berg all the time because that's my way to get back to the depths in Blighttown, or I cross back over to go to see the smith, and then I'm at Darkroot, and sometimes I go back the other way to Undead Berg. I mean, it's just like it's this, and I still haven't dealt with that dragon that's on top of the castle. I don't even know if I need to.
That's a funny one because I feel like it's such a good introduction of a boss, and then it makes the dragon such a formidable opponent, like seemingly formidable, like immovable object, and then to put that bonfire right beyond it, and then also to see that bonfire through that grating gate that is at the bottom there, when you first come up from the rats, and you're like, it's right there, and you hear the roaring. So if that's like one of the last bosses you actually can circumnavigate to, I would be pretty impressed, because it's like it's been in the back of your head for so long that thing is there, and it's like, and then eventually you get to go, and I assume you'll fight him on the bridge, like you come from behind, and then
in Demon Souls, there was a similar sort of bridge encounter where you just had to dodge it.
I played that one. I got that far in that one.
And if you get all the way past it, I think it moves, and then later in the game you actually fight it somewhere else. Is my recollection. I don't think I fought it on that bridge, but I don't know. There's probably multiple ways that those things can play out as well, which is also just like. There's just a lot here, and it's just not to mention that the game is still like, I've been to Blighttown, which was one place I had heard of and knew about. I tried going down the catacombs, and I was like, "Ooh, that's pretty rough down there for me right now. I'm going to stay away because those skeletons they're no joke." So I kind of skipped that. And then I basically was like, well, maybe I'll start pushing further past this crest, and see what's in there. Or maybe go after that other dragon I know about and go see what's closer to that. It's just, there's so many places you can push to, and kind of try to learn more, that I don't know. There's just a lot. It's just a lot. My weapons are maxed now. So I as with the weapon I have, I can't do any more with it. My armor's close to it as well. I think I need a special type of Titanite now to level it further. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask you. So because I'm leveling up, basically my starting gear stuff, because from what I've been able to find or purchase, there really isn't anything better that I've found. Do you find like the stuff that you've maxed out? Is that stuff you've had for a while, or did you find it later, or how much like? Because I'm finding a lot of loot, but none of it is useful to me.
Yeah, I have heavy leather armor, I guess. I think is what it's called. And I did find that. I've no idea where. I mean, that was like one of those bodies that's just kind of lying somewhere, and it's got a glow on it, and you pick it up and it's like, oh, look, 4 pieces of armor, it's a whole set, which is also interesting and weird. Like, you just find a whole set of stuff on a person because it's some hero who died. So, if I find something that looks like it could become better, I'll probably use it. But mostly I'm finding things where I'm like, yeah, this isn't really my thing, right? Here's some
that's what I mean,
shadow leather or whatever, and I'm like, well, that's more of a
tell me more.
That's more for you. Yeah, exactly. I have no idea where I found that either. Or I'll find stuff that's really heavy, and I'm like, well, that's not how I've been playing. I would have to really change up my strategy if I were to switch to something really, really heavy. It would be a very different game, and like all these player skills I have would be lost. So that's also hard. It's just like I feel locked in to the choices I've made in some ways.
Yeah, well, I do too.
Like that.
Yeah, that's why all this stuff is useless to me, because it's like it's such a weird feeling too, because you can't sell anything. Loot is like not really loot in this game.
Yeah.
Because it's like the chance that it's going to be useful to me is so low that, it's like, well, I don't really care even, I mean, it could be a consumable that I might want, but,
it's really only the consumables I pick up anymore. Like there's creatures at this point I know, like I never need to pillage, a skeleton or or those kind of fast zombies or whatever they are, but a rat, that's probably humanity, which is still funny to me, and I want that if I encounter rats, or what else, or the mosses that those things drop, the tree creatures, and so I want that because especially for the poison right now, but later I'm sure bleeding, I have run into enemies that cause bleeding, and that's the worst. I have not found anything good to deal with curse, except a very expensive item. The curse mechanic is rough. So it builds up like poison does, where you get to a state where you're poisoned. But when you build up the meter all the way to be fully cursed, instant death.
Oh no.
Okay, but
geez.
now when you come back at your fire, you're cursed.
Oh,
you can no longer. I don't think you can use humanity at all at that point, and you're at half health.
What?
So your max health is half of what it was.
What do you do?
At that point, I mean, I spent some time just doing it anyway, just to explore the space, because I was like, well, at this point, I don't like,
Do you, if you go pick up your dead body, do you get it back? Or do you get your full?
Yeah, you still get the souls back, but you don't. It doesn't revert the curse.
How do you get uncursed? An item?
There's an item that the moss seller has, who's in a specific location that you find. So it's just like, but you can avoid the curse guys altogether once you know that area. That's getting down to the gaping dragon. There's a way to get from the the closest bonfire to the gaping dragon that doesn't go through any of the things that curse you. And when I found that, I was like, oh, thank goodness. Because I spent so many times trying to find my way through there and like take them out one at a time. But like, because any individual curse thing was fine, but it's like two of them get there and it's like, oh, they're building me up too fast. I can't, I can't avoid it fast enough because there's two of them. And I'd get cursed to death. So it was just, it was really wild. I imagine there's something good down there, but finding it, I don't know.
You know what I'm really intrigued to see, and I hope we do. I don't know what we're going to do about Elden Ring, but I'm interested to see if and what the map is for that game, or how, because one of the key elements of this game is that there is no map. I feel like right. There's a very, very intentional decision. And so it kind of comes down to sort of memorization and sort of like repetition and, even just like remembering, like you said, the routes. And as the game grows for you, I assume like keeping track of everything is, it adds more cognitive load or whatever. And but then like where all the bonfires are, too, I assume that gets to be a certain number at some point, but like there's no map to kind of like, oh yeah, I should go. And then but like, it's so weird and so fascinating to me that that's such a bold and specific decision because the bonfires are essentially your save points or what have you, and respawn points, etc. And they're not fast travel. So it's shortcut based. But like fighting your way because of the respawn, finding your way to the checkpoint, it's just so wacky to me. It's just like, you found a bonfire. Oh, did you kindle it? Yep, you kindled it. Good job. Oh no, you want to get back to that bonfire? You have to fight your way back because everyth's respawned. Yeah. So it's like, no, you don't. You can't just. You earned it once. You have to earn it every time, no matter who you are. It's like what? That's you're insane. But it works. Like, I mean, it does. There's so many elements that are so outlandish to me, but because they're all put together in the way that they're put together, I buy it. I'm kind of okay with it, Yeah. Even though I completely understand why some people complain about the game and why that they just isn't quote unquote for them. But I don't know. It's just like, man, take some boldness, and
I mean, when I was climbing out of Blighttown, and climbing out
that's a good example.
Part of that, it was like, oh man, if I had fast travel, this would be a totally different experience. And
you wouldn't feel that you earned it.
Yeah, I wouldn't feel that. I mean, and I'm most of the time fine with that. Like, I'm a guy who plays a lot.
Well, you could use the bone thing, right? You could use the bone.
You can't. Yeah. Well, that would take me to my bonfire.
The wrong bonfire. I see. You weren't going back to a bonfire. I see.
I was at a bonfire, and I'm like, oh, I'm at this low bonfire, right. And I need to I want to get all the way back up, basically to the smith. You spend a lot of time getting to a place, and it's like, oh, well, now my armor, my weapons are in rough shape, and I actually had a point where it's like, oh, you're in danger of, you're in danger of failing. I think that's like at 25% or something like that, but your weapon could fail, and I'm like, well, that would be bad because I don't know what happens then. Like, is that gone forever?
No, it's not gone for. I've had that happen. It's not gone forever, but you can't use it.
Can't use it. Yeah. So that would be trouble. Because I don't carry other weapons.
I was carrying some of those repairing things for a while.
Oh yeah. I should probably do that.
Salts or whatever it is, the powder.
Yeah.
Powder.
I should probably do that.
But you can.
Yeah, let's talk. You want to talk about weapon slots at all? Because that was a thing that you had.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is like probably Souls 101 kind of concepts that I'm just discovering now, and maybe about. But like, I've never talked to somebody so deeply about the games that I understood some of the stuff, and we've talked in previous episodes about sort of that is a stats focused game, but stats are just different than we're used to from Western RPGs and what have you, even JRPGs. Like, it's in its own, I don't even know. It's like it's in its that's why we call them Souls games, I guess, because they're in their own land of stats. But I had a weird revelation that I think I'm reading right, in that when you look at your stats skill up when you level up, say for me it's dexterity, and I see the damage that something's going to do in my right hand and left hand, there's also damage per slot in my right hand. And so if I have, because I typically have 2 things in each slot of my hands, because I swap like between bow, or I swap between a dagger and a blade, because one has thrust and one has thrust and one doesn't, etc. And and then sometimes I have 2 blades and the other one is my shield. But then I was reading more closely and I was like, the damage is different from slot 1 to slot 2 in the same hand.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what? So I'm like, so when I was fighting for instance, the Titanite demon, it dawned on me, is like, I need to put my bow in the slot number 1 of my right hand because it does twice as much damage. But what that means is, if I want to swap back to my blade, because there's no pause, I have to like go into the inventory in the middle of the battle and put my blade in my slot 1 of my right hand so it gets full damage. And I'm just like, why would you do that? Like, what is the point of this? So it's like they're forcing you to use inventory in a stressful situation, because once you know that, there's no reason. I mean, I guess there might be some builds that use 2 different weapons very quickly for very specific purposes, because maybe like one does a different kind of damage. I guess but it does so less damage from slot 1 that I don't know why you would. I guess there's some bosses where there's just no way you're going to weapon swap in the middle of battle because it's just too hard. So that's probably the reason they have it. But it's just such a weird idea. You know what I mean? Where it's like, wow, and this whole time I was using.
I hadn't noticed that. I had no idea. Like, my second weapon is my talisman, because I cast spells. I cast 1 spell, as miracles they're called, because I haven't found another one from a vendor where I'm like, oh, I should totally have that. Although there was a point at which I talked to a guy who's like, he had his 3. There was this woman and her 2 guards, and they were like his 3 followers or something like that. And he had something, I don't remember what it was, where I was like, oh, that could be useful. And I didn't have enough souls for it at the time, so I went off and I came back and he had moved on. And I'm like, well, but I wanted to, and it's just
the guy back at the fire at the original place, the cleric there,
the morose dude.
He doesn't.
Oh, the cleric. Okay.
Yeah, no. Doesn't he have a bunch of spells there that they're not useful?
He doesn't have. I mean, he has. I mean, maybe he has something that's useful now. I don't know. I haven't gone to him in a long time.
I don't know. I saw a list of stuff that looked intriguing, but I didn't really scrutinize it. It may not be.
Yeah, there weren't a lot of them where I was like, oh, I could totally see a use for that. Like, there's stuff that I have items for, like the home, the hollowed bone or whatever, and it's I can already do that, right? I have an item to do that. I don't need a miracle that I'm attuned to do that.
And then attunement slots are like also a commodity.
Occurrence. Yeah. I've only got 2 slots, but I never have found a thing that I wanted to put in the second slot. So I've just been like, okay, well, if I get to a point where I want more of those, then I'll do that. But for now, that'll end up being the thing that kills me when I'm a level 120 and I can't level attunement anymore. Well, guess I just have 2 spells. Can't go to 3.
I was just bringing that up as an example of such a very specific choice that I probably don't fully understand, but I think I'm reading right. And maybe a lot of people just really primarily focus on the single slot, but they gave you 2 slots. And so what the reason, like I said, with the bow it dawned on me, is I was really looking at that, and I was often keeping the bow in my second slot, right? So that I would swap to it between that and my knife, but then the bow was not I think not working at full capacity because it was in my second
Yeah,
slot.
now I'm thinking back to Demon Souls, which I played the whole game of and didn't know that, and I'm sure my bow, which I used a lot, was in my second slot.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading it wrong and I'm just overthinking it, but I think that's what is happening. It's just such a crazy. No, actually, no, I think I tested it out because it shows you how much damage you do when you shoot somebody with a bow. Or maybe does it show you how much damage you do with anything? I guess I don't.
Yeah.
I've never noticed that. But with the bow, it tells you how much damage you're doing. And when I swapped it to my main slot, it was doing more damage. So I don't know. It's such a weird. Yeah. So I guess it's not fair to call it weird. It's just not what I'm used to, kind of the decisions they're making. And maybe that's what caught people off guard too, from the beginning of just like, they didn't conform to a lot of the things that you would think they would from modern game design. And that's okay. It doesn't make that weird. It's just like different and breaking habits. Like in a way, I feel like I'm breaking habits that I'm used to having.
Okay. So I'm looking this up because I was very confused. People are saying that it's because the weapon scales better with your stats, but that would mean that the bow would be the same whether you put it in slot 1 or slot 2. So you need to check that. Like you need to put it in slot 1 and see what slot 1 says, and then you need to put it in slot 2 and see what slot 2 says.
Oh, so the numbers
reflect what you're holding.
Oh, okay. So that was probably what it was then. So okay. So then I am insane. That's not correct.
Well, I don't know if you're insane, but you drew a reasonable conclusion from incomplete evidence.
Yeah, yeah. It's confusing. Like it doesn't. I thought those stats were pure stats, not based on the weapon. Not based on what you're holding. I don't know why I thought that. I thought maybe they were multipliers or something. So
yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. That makes me feel better that it's not. But so if I had the same weapon in both slots, then those numbers would be identical, is what you're saying.
I think so. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll test it that way to make sure.
That's what I'm reading. But yeah, you should check that because that's a good experiment to know. And it would make me feel better about Demon Souls.
Yeah. I mean, it's so insane that like I can't. Yeah. Now that you say that, and I hope that that's true, that it's so crazy that I don't know why they would do that. So it can't be the case. So
well,
okay, I mean, my faith restored.
It can be the case. It can be the case, but yes, I hope it's not the case because that is super strange.
Then I wonder though, because I don't know. I feel like I'll do some tests.
Yep. Yeah,
I'm sure people were yelling. If that is true, then the people were yelling.
People were yelling at you. No, Tim, what are you doing? Stop putting this disinformation out in the world. We definitely get emails where it's like, hey, do you guys need help? I'm not sure you really understand things about the game. And they're like, no, let us muddle through. That's our method. Well, playing it, playing it like players, but discussing it like devs,
Well, I think that's important too. Like, I'm sure people are yelling at us for all. I mean, we're basically, for all intents and purposes, noobs. I know you played Demon Souls and you're not as a year ago noob as I am, but I think it's actually because part of the mythos around these games is the opacity of them.
Yeah.
I think it actually is important for us to on air muddle through this and
feel the opacity.
Come up with theories or like interpretations like I just did that are completely ridiculous and of course hopefully not true. But the point is, like you said earlier, is that the fact that I didn't understand that and I'm working through it to understand what it means. And I didn't have to look it up, or I chose not to look it up. I could have. I have another question about humanity that I really want to look up, and I'm not going to. But you might know. I think that's an important process to actually talk about on air. That we're like coming through this process like real time, and I'm sure people are yelling at us for all sorts of reasons because we're not getting all sorts of stuff right.
Well, people didn't think I knew that you could also just straight up block, like with L1, right? And I was like, no, but I like the parry. It's like, no, I know I can do that. apparently, I think that's a thing that people feel really slows the game down. And we have some email along those lines.
What is?
That you can block a lot. You just spend a lot of time blocking.
Oh, I block all the time.
Yeah, I don't. I tend to run up and parry, and because I really love the parry to execute it, it feels so good. It's worth dying to get the feel of the parry for me. I just love it so much.
I think I've had one successful parry.
Oh wow!
I feel like one or two, because it's just not. I'm not good at it. So you're saying, because if you parry pretty much exclusively, then that means your window, your possibility of missing is higher, much higher than mine. Because you can if you don't have the timing down, then you can really, they're going to hit you.
Yeah, and that's
because the block is pretty guaranteed because you just hold it.
Yeah, you just hold it. Yeah, the blocks are pretty solid. No, you might take a little damage. You take a small percentage of the damage.
And they can stun you sometimes, or not stun you, but
it depends if you have how much poise you have. Yeah.
Oh, is that what poise is? Okay.
That's what poise seems to be for. Yeah, I have a ring that increases my poise, but since I never just straight up block, I don't know how much it's helping me. I guess there's probably still things that it's doing. But yeah, I just love getting better at that parry. I just like it so much it's so rewarding to do it. And so now I'm actually pretty good at it. And it's a thing that I do all the time. And it's something that I try to draw an enemy into a position where I can parry. Because I think I'll pull it off. So
do you ever backstab? Or is that a thing for you?
Almost never. Okay. It's not. I mean, it's possible for me to do, but it almost never happens. The one thing I was trying to do it to was that black knight with the shillelagh we talked about last time, who I still haven't killed.
That guy.
I've just left him there. I've just don't go that way, right? I mean, there's no reason for me to go that way, so I just have avoided him. And there's another one that's in the tower that the dragon's on top of, I believe.
Yeah, there's one up there. Yeah.
Yeah, and that one ran. That was, I don't know. That was 40 hours ago that one ran me down and killed me. And with me just running.
Have you killed any of the Black Knights?
I feel like there was one in.
There's one in Undead Burg.
Undead Burg down those steps.
Yeah,
I killed that one. Yeah, I killed that one.
Oh, okay. And then there's one in Darkroot Canyon.
Right. I have not killed that one. That one's got a pole arm. Yeah, I got past him.
I ran away. I mean, I did run away from him successfully, but
I got past him, and that led me to the Valley of the Drakes, I think is what it's called. But where if you get past him, you can basically have him run after you. You can jump down to a path below and kind of get past him, and then there's a bonfire in the tunnel past him, which I almost missed. I almost ran all the way down there and went, oh no, it's a dead end.
Oh, I thought it was a dead end.
It's not. There's a passage into the whatever hill that you can go into, and in there's an elevator that takes you down to the Valley of the Drakes. Yep. And I went down there and got pretty worked by a drake. So I was like, oh, maybe not that. And then I was like, now I got to get by this guy going the other way where I can't jump down. And that was terrifying, but I managed it. I don't really know how. I guess I pulled him into the tunnel and dodged past him and ran like heck. So
I do like that the mini bosses are skill checks for bigger bosses, like the ones that are sort of not the ones that are just in the world, not through
right, not through the mist.
Yeah. That boar, by the way, I finally went back to take that boar out in Undead Parish and backstabbed him. one hit,
one shot.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, it was I didn't expect it because I had hit him in the butt before.
Right.
And done some damage, but I just lucked. The backstab's a little weird because it's like a very specific angle you have to be at in position, but it's generally a one shot. So I was just wondering how much of that is my build and how much of that is something anyone can do. I think it's somewhat related to my weapon is better at backstabbing too. Also, there's kind of a stealth thing, which is very janky and not good because it's all it really is walking. but
Yeah.
because of my armor, I can walk up behind people they're back to me and they won't turn around, and I just backstab them.
Oh yeah, I'm not patient enough to do that. I tried to do that getting out of Blighttown because there were two dudes that were tough, that I knew were going to be tough. Those are the ones I ended up being able to cheese. I was like, oh, thank goodness that I was able to do that, because that would have been tough. They were very heavy, big weapons, and do a lot of damage, and dodging two of them all the time in a space where I could fall off would have been, but I was walking up, but I'm wearing, I think, armor that's loud enough, or maybe I just get impatient. I'm like, oh, I better run now. Because I don't backstab. So I don't I have no training on it, So it's really interesting that we're both playing kind of lightweight, mobile characters.
Right.
It's a very different experience that we're having. I'm all strength and faith. I've put some into vitality, I guess, because I just wanted some more hit points. And then I've been putting a little bit into resistance, specifically for poison, because of going down into Blighttown, below Blighttown, to have more poison resistance while I'm down there. That's just the last handful of levels. I'm just like, maybe I should put some more in there, But I'm also going to push further into this part of the forest and see what's there, So I'm definitely, like I said, I sort of progressively deepen. I feel like I've going all the way down into Blighttown. I've gone so far that's like, okay, that boss is pretty tough. Maybe I'll pull back and try to push further somewhere else that I haven't yet, and see what I can find.
I wonder, to your point on the resistance, I wonder how much, maybe this from some items you've picked up, but I haven't found any jewelry or anything, for instance. And I'm wondering how much they're sort of a little bit, not Metroidvania, a little Zelda-like in the, if you go and take this boss down first, you get a ring that gives you heavy poison resistance, and you want to do that first and then go to Blight. Sort of the order of operation discoveries that are probably very opaque and not shared with you at all. I wonder how much of that happens.
I'm sure there's some of that. I have not found. Let's see. I currently own 3 rings. One of them, what does it do? It does something when I have low HP. Maybe I do more damage when I have low HP or something. I can't remember exactly what that does. I have one that increases my poise. That one I have equipped. And I have one that I absorb a small amount of HP when I kill something. So, in fact, when I go to fight that boss again, I should take off that one, because I'm not absorbing any HP from her, because she's not dying. So I might as well wear the other ring that might be useful when I get to low health. It might give me enough room to back off and get a flask in or something like that. I can't remember exactly what that does, but I think that might have been the first one I got. It's like a turquoise ring or something like that. I can't remember where I even found that. So the problem with playing this game in kind of a blitzkrieg, you lose 50 track. Hours, 50 hours in 2 weeks. I can't remember where I found anything. I'd have to take notes, real notes.
So we were in pre-show. We were talking about the bell, and you mentioned the sorcerer and stuff that I maybe missed, or I didn't see it at all, him at all, but or them at all. But when you ring the bell, there's this cinematic. It kind of is this sweeping shot of the bell, and then you see this structure with reddish stone in the mountainside. And they kind of really focus on it, and there seems to be, I think, probably a mist gate, mist door, whatever they're called, at the top of it in a far distance, but it's actually a really big one if it is. And I think it's the base of that structure, which is pretty elaborate looking, building and set of buildings. Reminded me a lot of Shadows or Eco, but I think the bottom is that gate where that sleeping dude is, that I haven't gotten into yet. Have you gotten through that gate yet?
Sleeping dude. Oh yeah, no, I have not. Yeah, the guy with the onion. the onion
Yeah,
head.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it seems like end game. I don't know. Like they after you ring the bell, they really call attention. I think that's the same. It's just the top of that same building, and I'm just intrigued to know because like that's one of the that's like it seems like a big, no pun intended, gating
Yeah.
section, gated section that I'm really interested to know like what that's all about. But you haven't
Yeah,
gotten
it
in there
feels
yet.
like no. I think probably you have to ring the other bell, right? And
Like maybe once you ring both bells, then that opens, and then that's like the end. Yeah.
Yeah, where the
that
would be my guess. I mean, that's the only goal we've really had. That's not sort of player driven. Has been talking to that guy and having him say, "Hey, you can go ring the bell up there."
So funny. That's
it's
so true.
It's such a strange thing for a game that has all these RPG elements to have no quests.
Yeah.
Like, there seems to be one quest, which is ring these two bells, and one of them happens pretty early. Like you did it in the last few hours. So it's, 10 to 15 hours. I'm at 52 hours. I don't even know where the second bell is.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's down past the catacombs, but I was getting wrecked down there. So it's like, it's still a ways off for me, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know that, but that's my suspicion. And that's just wild. That is so different. There's a lot of other world building stuff that's happening, and there's sort of a lot of sub goals of like, I'm going to get past this because the bosses their own things. Those feel like something like a quest or tangible goal that you can set for yourself, but they're still player driven. Nobody's telling you could just skip past that Titanite demon every time. You could just roll past them, never deal with them, if you wanted.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and exactly like that. You get things from those sub bosses that I assume relate to stuff.
One of the souls I have, that butterfly soul, is like you can get a ton of souls from it, or it could make a great weapon. And I'm like, cool. How do I make the great weapon? But what if it's not a weapon I want? Like, and I've held on to it forever. Like I've had that for 30 hours now. It's probably worth tens of thousands. It's probably worth a couple levels, say. And I don't know what weapon it's going to make.
Yeah. It was cool.
I can't make that decision.
Interesting. That dropped off, I assume, off the butterfly boss.
Yeah, off the butterfly. Mm-hmm.
Is what bosses through the mist gate in the garden, not far from that locked gate in Darkroot Garden? Is that the butterfly?
Oh yeah, if you go past those knights down below, you mean?
No, in the garden, up above in the garden, there's a mist gate. Where the locked door is that you were talking about, that you had to use the key to get through in the garden?
There's a mist gate there.
Yeah, there's a mist gate past it. Right past it, there was like a room.
That's where the bonfire is behind.
There's a room to the a room to the right with three. There was a dead dude and 3 tree creatures spawned from the ceiling and dropped down, and I ran away from them. But right in front of me was a mist gate that I didn't go through. I was curious if that was so it doesn't sound like that's the butterfly then.
I wonder, it might be. I wonder if in the remaster version there's slight changes to the maps.
Well, if you killed the butterfly a long time ago, the mist gate would be gone, so you maybe forgot it was there.
No, I know exactly where it was. I remember exactly where it is. You have to go up 3 flights of stairs.
Oh yeah, so this isn't it then. No, this is just like a walkway. I think. Well, maybe we're talking about a different locked gate. There's a locked gate with like a round.
Yeah, a round circle.
And you have to buy that from the smith, I think, right?
Yes,
it's like 20,000 souls or something.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. So right past, if you go to the right of that, there's like a forest hallway.
Yeah, you can go down, and then there's that little alcove with the 3 trees. Yep.
Yeah, and it ends in a mist gate. That hallway, right to the.
Really? Oh, huh.
Yeah,
okay.
For me, at least.
No, I don't. That one I see. Yeah, that might be, and I just don't remember that was a mist gate. I think that one just dismisses. It's like you just go through that.
Oh, it's a level load.
There's not a boss.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because it's not still there for me. But I think it's to because you do meet a new enemy type beyond that is pretty terrifying. It was pretty terrifying the first time at Magic, and like, but there's like 6 of them in there, or something like that. I don't know, 5 or 6. There are 3 enemy types in that area. That was one of my loops. And that's where the moving tree is and stuff like that. So, which I still don't know how I triggered, but okay. There's a tree that moves. And then there's more critters behind that are weird little frog things. It is so strange. It is just...
Okay, so let's talk really quickly about humanity. So...
Okay, yes. Tell me about humanity, because I have no new thoughts about humanity. It's not a thing I've engaged with much. I pick it up sometimes, but I don't know how. Sometimes my number goes up.
Yeah, well, that was what I was going to ask you, because obviously there's the items that you can get.
Right.
And I actually expended those just failing on my run to get to the gargoyle, so I actually ran out enough to not be able to summon the dude to fight with me. And so then I was like, okay, I either need to go farm those rats, which I did try to do for a little while. But then I was like, occasionally I have a humanity point or 2 even without using those. So then I started doing a bunch of different tests to see if I could figure out why because that, like, just leaving the smith and getting those few undead guys right outside the church. Like, there was one time when I left a fresh bonfire, I went up there, killed those three undead guys, and had a humanity point afterwards.
Huh.
And I was like, what? And so then I went back and used that to become human so I could go summon the guy. Failed at that one too. I think I fell off the roof during the gargoyle fight, and I was like, darn it.
Classic.
Yeah,
classic roof fight.
Classic gargoyle. And so then I was like, okay, well, and then I went and killed him again and didn't get it. So it's like, does it randomly? Can you randomly get a humanity from people and they don't tell you? I don't know. Is this very...
I don't know, man. There was a point... I think when I started my session today, I just played a couple hours before recording. I had 4 when I climbed out of Blighttown. I have no idea. Yeah. And I've since died and lost them all, and they're gone. But, and now I have another one though. I mean, I picked up another one at some point. I sometimes have more than 10 Estus flasks. I don't know how.
Wow. Is it? Well, there's that one item, but I don't know if that gives you more flasks. It's supposed that
there's an item, that seems to intensify them or something. Yeah, that fire sprite or whatever it is. I haven't used it because I'm like, I only have one. I want to know what it does before I do it. I had 12 Estus flasks at one point, and I think it's just spending a lot of money at the smith. Like, he sometimes just slips you one. Like, I think that's when it happened, and I didn't notice it happening, but it feels like when it happened, it was like I repaired spent a ton of money on a ton of souls on repairs, and I feel like that was around the time where I suddenly had more Estus flasks. Don't know. I'll have to keep an eye out, but could be.
It was kind of a fun, because I literally had a farming run in the parish there where I was just trying to experiment to see if I could figure out how to get, because that one time, maybe it was my imagination, maybe I had humanity for some other reason when I killed those 3, but it seems kind of random-y to me, which is a little troubling, because there'll be other times when I'll look up and I was like, I just have one, and I was just kind of doing nothing specific.
And nothing seems to call attention to it either. You just happen to notice that you have one. You're like, was that there? Yeah.
And so if I were online, so when you're human, you can be invaded, right? That's the whole deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of missing, like, the risk reward of that. I'm kind of missing out on then, because I can't be invaded. So, like, there's no downside for me being human. I feel like only upside, maybe. I don't know. There's got to be some.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would think that people probably treat you better. Some of the NPCs probably treat you differently.
Yeah.
They're always commenting on the fact that I'm hollow, or whatever I am, undead. So yeah, it's a whole. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't have a good sense of what those mechanics are. because I don't notice them because I'm so focused. I'm so focused on the center of the screen generally, so I don't notice if the numbers go up in the corners.
Yeah.
And like I don't know why it happened.
For sure.
And it's definitely happened. I feel like it probably is like a random drop that you don't have to pick up.
Yeah.
Like
when you get
that's what it feels like. You
just
get the souls and you get a humanity, and you notice, you're getting the souls, but you don't see the humanity go up. It feels like that, but I honestly don't know. I have no idea. So yeah. Maybe there's another cryptic single line in the manual that is supposed to tell me everything I need to know about that. But
I kind of hope there isn't. I mean, it's like, I know, and again, people who are masters at these games are yelling at us right now, but I just want to reiterate, I just let us go through the process. That's part of what we're doing this for. And maybe we come out the other side with some sort of awareness of what the heck's going on, but maybe we don't. And so it's just a fascinating, because it's such an antithesis of modern, of expected design, that it's so fascinating to me that could be the case. We could finish this game and still not know things about it, like fundamental things. That is fascinating to me. So, I mean, replayability is a thing, so I understand that. And the builds alone, like the fact that we're playing so differently with and then that there's, now that we're getting into it, I can imagine how different each of the builds really do play. I'm trying to imagine an archer, like in the timing, because I am dabbling in archery, like fighting a boss from a timing perspective. To be honest, fighting anybody with ranged from a timing perspective sounds insane to me.
It was hard in Demon Souls. It was definitely a thing for me where I was like, a lot of like rolling to try to get someplace so I could get off a shot and then rolling, and it was a whole, I mean, it's so dex based in that playthrough. I can remember I poured so much into dex, probably dex and vitality, because I was probably terrified of my hit points. Because sometimes it's just that, it's just like, well, I just need to be able to take another hit, so I sometimes put it in just because I'm like, well, if I just had a little more, like when I first met these guys beyond this door, I was like, I just need a little more of this, a little more of that. I need a little more vitality, a little more endurance, and I'll be able to take these guys out. And that turned out to be true. Yep. It's a whole thing. You're right to turn to some email. You want to get a couple down?
Yeah, I could do an email.
Okay.
Let's see.
Let's do a couple quick emails. We'll do the ones that we didn't do last week. So you have one, I think, from Artemage, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Drunk Souls. Yes, you read that right. Is the subject from Artemage. Hello there. Someone who probably watches both of our casts from time to time. Hello, devs. Your Dark Souls decision comes at an awkward time for me. Wait, is this the one?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought maybe I pre-read this one last week, and I thought I'm thinking I was rereading it. I can't play along. Why, you might ask? Because at the end of May, I'm doing a charity run supporting my local children's hospital, McMaster Children's Hospital, with something that will stress my liver's ability to game. The short version is I have to drink an Estus, quote unquote, before I start each life. Limited lives. But people can buy more. As it's going through Extra Life, literally every cent of every donation goes to the hospital I'm supporting. All right, here are the details. That's amazing. So let me see. Let me go back. So I guess maybe he'll go on.
So basically, every time he starts a new life, right? Every time he comes back at a bonfire, he has to drink.
Yeah, right.
He has a limited number of lives. Right, he starts off, being kind to his liver, but other people can punish his liver further by buying him additional lives through donations.
Nice, amazing. So the details.
I'd have to play this game a bunch more times before I felt comfortable trying this, because, I'd be quickly dead.
So yeah, I mean, just this game, as you get drunker and drunker, sounds hilarious to me, and definitely Twitch worthy, which it sounds like he's doing, or they're doing. So May 28th, 2022, 10 a.m. Eastern. to 10 p.m. when I run out of Estus, or when I run out of Estus. So Artemis84 on Twitch. Extra Life 2022 Part 1, Dark Souls Redux. Rules: Artemis has a limited number of lives to play Dark Souls, but these lives must be fueled by liquor, Estus, that your donations provide. Artemis will start with 5 lives and must drink before beginning a new life. Specific types of liquor, Estus, can be selected with your donations. Further details to be posted as they are available on Artemis social media. So look for Artemis84 on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Take care. That sounds hilarious.
It does. Yeah, when terrifying. It gets a little closer, we'll try to remind people that that's going on. That sounds pretty wild. Good luck to your liver, Artemis. I have one here from, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's Quenta. I'm going to go with Quenta. Morrowind Love and Dark Souls Master Key. Hi, guys. I love your podcast and how you go into things as blindly as possible. That's the way I do it, and it's so entertaining to hear other people's fresh personal experiences of these games. Morrowind and Dark Souls are 2 of my most loved games, so it's been a great few weeks of listening. That being said, I don't think it's great for you both to have chosen the Master Key as your starting gift. I did that on my first blind playthrough, and it opens almost every door, perhaps too many doors. This makes the game an entirely different experience, because one part of the game is arriving at blocked passages, then finding ways to pass them later. The path you take can affect quest progression, and the way you may piece the narrative together while playing. Having the key more readily leads you to situations that make less sense, or encounters that are harder than they need to be for a character of a certain level. Most of all, though, I think it would be more interesting to listen to you talk about the game from 2 different perspectives, of one who has the Master Key and one who doesn't. Regards, Quenta. And that's compelling. I should just play another 52 hours. That's probably not going to happen, sadly. This came in, and we didn't read it last week. We had already started and been playing a bit, before this. Or I guess when this came in, we had each played like 3 hours. Even then, I was like, well, I'm probably not going to play the first 3 hours again. I don't think that would have been a big ask, honestly. I will say, I think it's likely that this is one that I get a lot further in than Tim. So it might be that you get 2 different perspectives anyway. Piecing the narrative together, though, is a question that I'm like, interesting. I have not.
I've only used it once, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I think once so far for me as well.
And it was to get into a side room that just had a chest, really.
So maybe twice then for me. I feel like might have been another place where I used it.
I think
I can't recall. I'll try to keep note of that, though, just to be like, oh, hey, I went through this door using the Master Key. Maybe that I should keep track of that, so that I notice and take note of that, because maybe that's meant to be a sort of a replay thing. I'm playing the game again, and I want to try to get through to whatever faster, something. I don't know. Maybe that's what that's there for. I don't remember. The thing is, I remember looking at the list of things that were available as gifts, and I was like, I don't want any of. Oh, here's this key. Well,
I'm playing a thief as well. Like I'm gonna
you get it
the Master
for free.
Key.
Yeah.
But it's maybe. I mean, it's a good note. I mean, I think because it does tell you what key you've used when you open a door, right? So yeah, we could probably make mental notes of like, oh, okay, so if I open this and I didn't use, well, I guess I wonder if you have the key you're supposed to use. I wonder if it tells you if it uses that key or if it uses the Master Key. So because there could be times when we don't know that we already have the right key, from a progression standpoint.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea where I use the Master Key. I have not been paying attention to the keys I use. There are some that I'm like, okay, well, I needed that key to get down below to this, to get to the depths. I needed a specific key that I got somewhere from the Capra Demon. I can't think of a time I've used the Master Key where it felt different. So Yeah, I don't know.
It just means that you've just scratched the surface.
Yeah, I know.
Of the game.
52 hours in and just getting started. So thank you for those emails. They were sent to devgameclub@gmail.com. We love to have them. We also love to have your reviews through the Apple Podcasts infrastructure, etc. If you use some other thing and would like to hear your review read on the air, just let me know. Drop us a line at the email address. You can find us on the web at devgameclub.com or on Twitter at devgameclub. You have been taking a couple weeks off from twitching. I'm sorry. Where you can also find my co-host at. How many times have I said this? A billion?
300 or whatever. No, what are we at?
Yeah.
300?
305.
Yeah. Tim Longo Jr. with JR at the end. He threw me off.
Yeah, I know. And also streaming, I was reading just through my stuff, at twitch.tv/Tim Longo Jr. You're taking a few weeks off. Have you picked that next game yet?
Well, what I realized is that I think I maybe said this last time. I forget.
We said that last week, yeah, about Bloodborne being not a good fit.
Yeah, so I'm kind of on a horror scary kick right now. So one of my other ideas was actually Alien Isolation. So I'm thinking about actually playing that next because I really want to play it, and it's again I've been playing some Resident Evil for a while now. So that's one on my list. I kind of would like to play something a little more sandboxy, but I haven't really come up with anything. So,
okay.
Yeah, we'll see. Nothing yet definitive.
All right. Well, we will see where you end up. I occasionally twitch at twitch.tv/Brett Duville. Most recently, I finished Tunic on there. This week I've actually been playing a lot of Death's Door, but I've been playing it in the morning when I work out on my treadmill desk, so I've actually played and finished that game, although I guess there's a second ending that I'm working on now. I don't know what I'll be streaming up there. I have a bunch of things that I'd like to play, so you may see me streaming there this week a little bit. Our intro and outro music was written and performed by Kirk Hamilton, commissioned by friend of the cast Aaron Evers, and our logo is by Mark Garcia. Have fun climbing all the way down into Blighttown and back this week, and good night.
Good night.